Greetings, terra firma. What I'm going to go over today is what I like to refer to as pyramid phrenology. So let's start with the basics. If we have ground level, and for the sake of this drawing, we'll try to use the measurements over there, ground level, okay? If we have a structure, in this case we're going to build a pyramid because we're talking about pyramids, okay, and it's there. Any ambient brush discharge static electricity, whatever it is, whatever voltage it is, whatever amperage it is, whatever it is, will dissipate on the structure both to earth and up into, I'm just going to use the word ether because until someone actually wants to give me a better name, it's going to work. Okay? If we put a barrier, a resistance factor down here, that static electricity can't, first off, static electricity really doesn't like smooth surfaces. So we're going to rough it up. We already know that. But within this roughing it up pattern, if instead of just making it symmetrical, we put a little more resistance there, this is going to try to maintain a little bubble within it until it gets enough energy, the frequency and force, resonant ambient frequency and force, is enough to jump that little barrier. Now, as it is on some of the structures we're going to talk about, they actually put several large barriers on some, and on some they put less, and that's because they're trying to push and squeeze the energy in certain ways, but we're going to get to that. Now, that would maintain a pool here. If we then wanted to not let it vent off into the ether, we can lob the top off so the static electricity will get up there, but it doesn't have a focal point to grab onto, which is why your antennas, had extra points there. They have focal points to release and grab the energy from. We can talk about frequencies and wavelengths and all that, but it's just a benign thing, whatever it is. If you're just releasing the energy itself and you don't care about the frequency per se. But however, we do kind of care about the frequency because that's why there are different size steps. But if we put a large step here and then a smaller step and a smaller step and a smaller step, that will make the energy as it's coming down here kind of have resistance, but it can jump over that. But then if we do that repeated again, only here we put a larger bump, what's going to happen is whatever energy falls into that pool, as it creates enough energy to fall to the next pool, it actually jumps back. And that's going to help more quarantine that energy to the surface of this said structure. Now, let's get a little bit into the nitty-gritty fine points of the three structures we're talking about, which would be this one, and this one. Now, each of them is unique. If you pull up that image on your screen, you can take your Google Guy, drop it on the plateau where I'm sitting. He is right here on the plateau, which would be to the west, little bit south of the Carolina structure, the third structure, ABC, Anna Barbara, Carolina. Okay? A little west and south, you can see, and it's most important is this corner, because when you zoom in on that corner, we are going to get into, and I will give extra credit to anyone who wants to try to guess, and some of my viewers here, you probably can guess, why you have one rock up here that looks out of place. See how close I can get. One rock right up here that looks out of place, okay? And then a void of a rock right down here. And you notice that's also the two elevations where the change in course, this is going faster, so it won't get right in the middle, where the change in course goes from, the course is the same, but up here where this stray rock is, the course changes to a tighter step. We'll get into that. And down here where there's the missing one is where you see it comes in from the edge. And that will get more into a little bit into the communication. It also helps to pool the energy, but the exact steps, well, there is no communication because these were not intelligently designed, you know what I mean? But let's talk about how and what that does. That makes it so the whole top of the structure is sunken in a little bit, and it both demonstrates visually and works here. If we just put the edge, the whole section sinks in and then goes up, and then it doesn't sink in a lot, but at the next step it sinks in a little bit and then goes up. Now this point up to the top there, that would be your 220 foot mark. Because it sinks in twice, they measured at 215 feet, so there's actually, it drops down 5 feet because of the way it steps in. And you will see that these are larger steps. Actually, the size steps here and the size steps here are about the same. It drops a little bit, but then there's a big jump to a smaller size. You notice these are in the 30 inch step. These are more 40, and then down here it's more in the 45s. So it goes from 40 to 30. It's a pretty big jump. It dips in a little, and then from there it's consistent the whole way up. In fact, there's a good video that I have on one of my playlists where some 23-year-old guy climbs the top of this all the way to the top. You see it's consistent the way up. I also have the one where the 18-year-old, the one that got arrested, climbed the Giza pyramid, the Great Giza pyramid, the primary one, Anna. And both of those, until they're taken down, are linked on my playlist. So you can go and put eyes on these subjects. Now the same way we've just discussed that one, and how it kind of makes sure that the ambient static electricity is quarantined to the structure, and it does allow some of it to vent up and to equalize with the area in the range of the 200-ish feet up here in this belt at that altitude. Now let's look at this structure and this structure. Now, the Great Giza Pyramid, I've said in a lot of my videos, it's the one with the sweeping pattern. You can get to that at surface.greatgizapyramid.com or surface.dgiza.ws. Sorry, not ws.com. ggiza.com. I don't have the .ws anymore. Anyway, long story short, you can see the sweeping pattern. This is where it's up near the top. This right here, this big one, is the 35th step. That one is in conjunction with this step here and the change in the rocks. In fact, you can see when you look at the picture the change from the larger to the smaller, where it goes from like the 40 inches to the 30 inches. That's done just above, like 4 levels above where the bottom of the niche, the cutout in the face of the structure is. And that's more when we get into, well, it's so you can see the elevations in comparison to each other, but that's when we talk about communication eventually. But here let's see if I can zoom in here. Okay, you can see the change in course elevation takes place right there at that step, and you can see the opening starts down here. So you have 5 steps between where the change in elevation is, and that odd rock is on par with this elevation down on the corner. So again, I'm just pointing things out to you, so when I refer to them later, say, oh, letting you see eyes on things. These are the real pictures. I don't have to make up the pictures on the structures. They're the pictures of the structures. I'm just pointing out. They like to paint, the emperor has no clothes, and the emperor is designed to be naked. They like to dress the emperor up so you don't see its nakedness. I'm pointing out its nakedness. The center structure, it's also very unique. If we take one of its sides, okay, you look that it not only as it goes up in frequency, as the size of the steps shrink, you will see it jots in. It jots in 3 times, such that from the bottom to where the top would be, if it went all the way up, would be, I think it was 490 feet. It actually apexes at, if I understand their numbers right, I've not been up there. No one's let me up there with a yardstick. Although these days we could probably fly a drone right up there and get its altitude off the drone to get exact numbers. Somebody somewhere eventually will do it anally to the millimeter, or the 100th of a millimeter. I don't, whichever one it is, I'd be happy to get whatever you think is the right answer, because I'll work off your numbers. But right now it's 481 feet because A, it's semi-truncated when you actually look at the top of the structure. It's truncated. It's short 9 feet from the top. But let's you can pull that image up at photos.greatgizapyramid.com. In fact, let me just bring it over to you so you can take a good look at it, since we are talking about it here. Okay, here we go. Take a good look at that. Number one, you will notice, and we're going to talk about it, that there's a ridge right there that actually goes around or was intended to go around the whole top of the structure. You can see it in some of the rocks that are remaining there. And there was, and well, just take a look at that picture, okay? There was, you can back it up and look at it later. You can. I'm going to talk about it now. If at the point where it comes in, and then it comes in further, and it comes in further, it comes in a good 2.5, 3 feet. The distance between where that lip is and the center. If we were to take the point where it's at the closest in from the edge and bring it all the way up, it's going to have a point that comes out the top a few inches. I don't know, 6 inches? It has, if you looked on there, a little bit of a lip. That little bit of a lip aligns with the second jot. Actually, I'm sorry, it protrudes out at a point and goes up, and that's where that is. With that lip is from where it protruded out. And what this does is it also creates a pocket on the surface of the structure to maintain and hold its bubble of static electricity. Only this one is unique because if you look at it, it's done on an angle. When you look at it, it's really obvious, such that on the side closest to the Great Giza Pyramid, it has most of its energy only towards the top, and the lower part is the lower energy that's more grounded, because the whole thing is a variable. It's just taking that static electricity, is pushing it down the bubble here and pushing up, skewing where ground level is on this side. And this is all, when we look at it, well, just look at that's what it's doing. Some of that is functional when we look at when we get into the resonant ambient frequency and force of what is occurring here. Some of that is functional, creating a more of a draw. If you look at these as two towers, radio towers. And some of it is communication, but all of it is visually obvious. These were all built at the same time, and they were all designed so that one of them maintains a bunch of static electricity. That's the ANA unit. This one was designed, and if you look at the south side, it is the south side of the, it would be the east side of the structure. It has the little grounding plane, and that makes it so the pocket up here has this acts as an antenna to interface with the energies at this level, which are going to be a higher frequency, and I believe also the way it is with the Earth being negative and this being positive, having the greater percentage of free range electrons, right? But these are free range electrons at this frequency, and these are free range electrons at this frequency, and these maintain without the ability to reach higher, and because they have the resistance at the bottom, it can't get the best way to get to ground, it feels, is actually through this structure. When you look at because this is dealing with the water, the surface is dealing with the gas. I think I beat that to a dead horse. This is my pyramid phrenology. Phrenology, study of the bumps, study of the surface. Hopefully you can see the analogy, okay? Any questions? GreatGizaPyramid.com. Thank you. Have a nice day. Please drive through.